Multiclassing is a very complex matter. We know that, experts know that, Larian knows that, and that is why they want to make multiclassing a little bit more approachable for new players to be able to experience multiclassing with a little bit more of freedom. The thing is that in their attempt to actually achieve that freedom, they might actually just have broken the hell out of this thing. Before we continue, I would like to give a shout out to these beautiful people that brought this to my attention when I was speaking about my multiclassing video, which is still a very good video. But you are going to have this in mind that we're going to be discussing right here, because these are the changes that are going to happen on multiclass character, multiclass classes on Baldur's Gate 3 at release date. Although there's a little bit of a ambiguous statement right here that we're going to be discussing on this video, so if you're interested, let's just get right into it. So there's a couple of changes that they are going to be doing to multiclassing, and mainly two of them are the ones that caught my attention and what they are being brought up by the community, and we still do not know how we feel about this, because many of them, they are going to break the game core mechanics, and they are not how they work in the 5th edition of the tabletop game. But still, that being said, they are taking some liberties around here, and they're this little bit more approachable for new players to experience the multiclassing characters, but then, like I said, they might have just broken some little things. So this is the very first thing that we need to have in mind. We've changed a couple of ground rules, just to remove possible friction with multiclassing. If you know the rules of the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, you surely know that in order to multiclass, there are stat limits that you must respect. We have removed them. There are no more stat requirements, and you can make a character with multiple classes in any moment. What this means is that basically you're not going to have the restriction of the 13 ability scores that you would need to have for a character to multiclass into something. So for example, if you were a mage and you want to multiclass into a fighter, you would need to have 13 dexterity and 13 strength to be able to multiclass, because those are the stat requirements that you would need to have. For example, if you want to multiclass into a paladin, you would need a stat requirement for 13 into charisma. And then again, this is not that much as a deterrent thing, because at the end of the day, when you are multiclassing into something, you want to have synergy, so there is really no point into having a multi-class. Well, people actually does manages to make it work, but it's not actually ideally what you want to do because of the stats, main stat requirements, and what they are using with those stats primarily. And basically a class that will be using intelligence as its basic damage rolling stat and attack rolling stat, it wouldn't benefit for multiclassing into a cleric, for example, because the cleric would need a wisdom. But then again, just pure theory and basics of how it works. There's people that actually does this, and it works perfectly fine. What this means basically is that you're going to be able to multiclass into anything you want to at any given time in the game without having any kind of restrictions. That being crystal clear, we know that that's there, and that is something that I do think that it is more approachable, because you are going to, at the end of the day, be able to multiclass into wherever you want to multiclass at any given time, whenever you want to, however you want to, and I would say that it's actually quite nice. I wouldn't say that it's actually a bad thing. Whether it is a bad thing or a good thing, depending on your point of view and how you perceive this, it's going to be this one right here. The other thing that we've changed is how magic users use spell slots, making it less punishing to level up more than one magic class. One issue with multiclassing is that if you multiclass early in the game, you don't get strong abilities like Fireball at the same level as a pure class. But we wanted players to be able to multiclass from the start of the campaign without having to necessarily wait for the advanced levels, so that it was the case to revise the use of the resources a bit. Before we actually start the discussion, remember that all of these guides are focused primarily for new players. The experienced players are already going to be brewing up their input, how they feel about this, but for new players, let me elaborate this a little bit better for you to understand how this is going to work. This is the table of spell progression. At certain levels, you would be unlocking new spells. Those new spells are power spikes. At level 4, you are going to be unlocking level 2 slots. At level 6, you would be unlocking level 3 slots. Although this works differently on Baldur's Gate, you do get access to these higher level tier spells early on Baldur's Gate, mainly because the requirements, the final stat cap of Baldur's Gate is 12. But still, this thing functions like it functions for me to be able to explain all of those little things that I want to explain to you. So let's say that you multi-class into something. You want to make a paladin that is a sorcerer as well, and when you make that, you have to take a little bit of some levels into the paladin, meaning that you are going to, for example, let's say that you are a character level 6, which is different to the class level. The character level is going to be 6, the sorcerer level is going to be 4, and the character level is going to be 6 because you took 2 levels into a paladin. Since you only have 4 levels into a sorcerer, means that you do not get access to the tier that's right here, the third one, the third tier of school spells of damage of the next power spike that you are going to get. And that is basically that is a concession. That is something that you want to do, that you do not want to do. That is something that you have to do. And this is where the experienced players get puzzled a little bit about all of these changes that they are making, because usually when you multi-class into something, you have to have into account a good synergy, because you're basically replacing high-level spells for low-level class features. I want to clarify as well that this mainly, at least to the extension of what we know, this applies only to magic characters, as it was stated in the interview. It's probably going to be true also for some features for different classes, but that is just purely my conjecture. It's just weird that they just decided to take the mage characters, the spellcasting characters, and break them all over the board. And I say break them all over the board, skyrocket the capabilities that they have for damage input. It's because, back again, when you trade a early level skill, in this case for example being a sorcerer, for a paladin, you would be getting that early level paladin feature to be able to then be trading something in return for that. So in the events of, let's say for example, a fireball, which is a very popular spell, you wouldn't get access to fireball that early because you have already taken levels into the paladin. You have to make concessions. That is the way of building a character. And let me give you this metaphor for you to understand it a little bit more properly. You give something and you gain something in return. That is what multi-classing is all about. You give away something and then you get something in return for that something that you are giving away. You give away a high level, the possibility of getting a high level tier of spell to gain a low level tier of class feature for the desired class that you multi-class into that one. And what they meant, or how this works in my mind, and basically this is what they said on their statement, which is very ambiguous, is that basically with this feature what they are doing is that you should multi-class, because multi-class is going to be broken, because instead of giving something, you do not have to give anything to receive something. So basically, getting early level spells without having to sacrifice anything, you don't have to give anything, you're just going to receive something. So if you multi-class, you are going to receive that high level spell benefit without having to sacrifice anything else. That is what they are trying to say. And this is why people is so puzzled about that, because at the end of the day, it's not that I do not have gratitude of being able to receive something powerful, to receive that something that is going to make my character that much stronger. It's just that, how is the DL diversity going to work into this? Because this is a huge buff to a multi-class character. But what about the people that prefers the monoclass? What are you going to give to them? How are you going to balance these things? And there's a whole lot of people that do not think that there should be any balance, because this is not a PvP game. That doesn't necessarily mean that the rest of the builds should be as broken as this one is, just because for the sake of existing. Mainly just because of this, then it's a whole better idea to just take a multi-class and receive that something extra bonus, because everyone is going to have it but me if I am a monoclass. So yeah, that is how it works. And I would love to have your input. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about this serious buff to the multi-class? Do you think that it's a nice thing? They are saying that this is for new players to be able to approach a little bit more the multi-class without the fear of losing strong spells. And yeah, that is a valid argument, I would say. Just the experienced players, those are the ones that could most naturally have the experience and redundancy of being able to multi-class into something without having to sacrifice that much because they know the character that well. This basically means that you are going to not sacrifice anything to receive something. How do you feel about that? Let me know in the comments section down below. I always see you goddamn gorgeous and beautiful people in the next one. Remember, I always told you today you're a gorgeous and beautiful person. You are indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. Have a beautiful day and goodbye.